Hey there guys, it's Chaos back again, bringing you another video. This is a video that I was promising some of you that have been watching my latest videos after hitting Paragon 100 is the build that I'm using to get me to Paragon 100. So basically, let's start with the skills first. With the skill, this build is not an original build. I didn't come up with this. A Redditor by the name of Chazzer came up with this first, as he presented it in an MP10 keep step 2 run mode. And this is now typically called either the Chazzer's build or the Whirlwind Rend build. So the way that this build works is, and just FYI, there were previous iterations of Whirlwind Rend, but not one put together in this fashion. So you got your typical Whirlwind stuff like Whirlwind, Sprint, Wrath of the Berserker, and Battle Rage. The two skills here now are going to be Rend with Ravage. Ravage you want because of the extra distance. You want to hit as many mobs as possible in the widest arc as possible, because this build, even on MP10, will one-hit things with Rend. It will just die a little bit later, off screen usually, but all you need to do is cast it once and run off to the next mob. And Overpower, which supplies you an extra 10% crit, because crits are the only things that will kill mobs in one hit, and you want to crit every time. But depending on your gear setup, mine right now is set up to 64.5. And this would net me another 20 when I'm in Wrath of the Berserker and Overpower. And because I'm using Whirlwind, Overpower basically comes up all the time. So, you know, 64.5 plus another 20 is 84.5. So I'm at 84.5 crit chance every time I cast Rend. My crit damage is up to 546, which isn't bad, and I don't even have a 100% crit gem in my weapon yet, because I accidentally venered my last Scorn. You know, with my rings and things like that, I've used my non-Hammer of the Ancients rings, and basically these guys here are going to give me a huge DPS boost this way. Now I have a few sets of gear that I can wear now, because I have Ethereals, which you guys seen in some of my other videos, and I haven't really commented on all the new stuff that I've been trying. I also got an Ice Climber for when this replaces the need for speed on boots, because this comes with a default 12%, so I could use these in tandem, and I gain quite a bit of damage and you know, output against demons and elites at the same time. So I like really using this for my hammer build, but for this instance I like to use a full IK set, and I'll show you guys why in a bit. Other new things, I've also picked up a new belt too, crafted a new amulet. I also have a craft of a glove as well. And I'm waiting for more, I would say, money to come in so I could replace my Lacuni bracers. I would actually want one with Vit and all res now instead of more DPS. Before I was overly stacked on EHP. Now I kind of need more EHP so I could use inner pants to further increase my damage. But not these ones. I'm going to look for a Vit set as well, so to keep my EHP higher for MP10 runs. I can farm MP10 quite easily now, so as far as gearing goes, this is going to be my regular IK set. You guys must have seen a million times of me doing this, but I'm just going to run through all the gear one time so you guys can get a good look of what I'm wearing, and then I'm going to show you the gameplay. Now there are already a few people, especially with the likes of Muldrin, who is a very popular streamer who has showcased this build as well. But for some of you guys that would like to see another point of view of it, this is one way to go. Now before I start the run, I'm going to show you guys why I like the IK set. Now before I even get into Keep Step 2, I already have 17 Fury just by standing in town. And this happens because the first few seconds that you get into town, you're basically sawed off as just coming out of combat mode, so you get enough time to generate the 17 Fury. Now Battle Rage is the first thing you need to cast, and notice that this is a non-generating kind of skill bar. So I only need one hit right now with Rend, which won't activate, and it will activate an actual auto attack, and that would be enough for me to turn on Battle Rage right away. And what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to overpower to initially get some crits in. If I don't get any crits in, at least it'll help me get further crits by upping my crit chance 10%. Once I get enough for Sprint and Whirlwind, I'm going to Whirlwind around until I get Wrath of the Berserker, and off I go. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this. I'm going to try to run this in real time, so bear with me if I don't say much concentrating on this. Although I have pretty much a lot of practice on it already, I still feel that at times you don't pick up in power shrines too, by the way, guys. I do need to concentrate just to figure out where I'm going on the map. Okay, so now Wrath of the Berserker is up, so what you're seeing now is I'm just going to rend through things like that. Now, Skull Cleavers will require you to damage them a little bit, but now Wrath is up. Before you run away, because they do have quite a bit more HP. But all the other guys would generally fall to a single rend. And there's really no need to circle around them as much. So you could feel free to just run right past things as you go. The one thing about this build, and a lot of people might not like Whirlwind or haven't played Whirlwind, or they're frustrated because they've tried and they really can't keep Wrath of Berserker going even with a lot of attack speed and things like that. There's a lot of videos dedicated to Whirlwind in general for the bases. However, the one thing that a lot of them don't mention is that when you're running Wrath of the Berserker, you have to ensure that you're spending Fury as you're going. When you have a full Fury bar, it basically does not allow you to gain Fury. So when you see you're on a full Fury, either cast, Sprint or Battle Rage to drop your Fury. And what that'll allow you to do is actually charge Fury as you're running and leaving the packs behind. Because generally you need that to keep Wrath of the Berserker going. And Wrath of the Berserker is here for a few reasons. One, obviously, is for the speed. The other is the crit chance. The third is just to not have CC bother you, or freezes and any kind of crowd control bother you from elites. So if you have Wrath of the Berserker up the whole time, you should be unimpeded in your quest to run through this as quickly as possible. Now, I could tell you that a typical run would usually take about 4 minutes or so for me to clear the entire thing, depending on how quickly I find the exit, or how many wrong ways that I go through. And generally that's not bad. I mean, when I was leveling, I found that in real time, and I don't use a gem in my helmet, I will gain roughly about 120 mil XP an hour, which translates to about 2 mil per minute. And once again, that's not focusing on elites, but I don't really run it as hardcore as some of the guys who have a lot of practice. I can't stand this repetitiveness for so long, so I only run basically until my attention span allows me. And typically speaking, when you're running this, and you see right now I'm out of Berserker, but no worries because you hit a dead end. Generally speaking, by the time that you have found like halfway to your first dead end, you will have Wrath of Berserker on cooldown already. Depending on your mood, I mean, some people like to restart once they hit a dead end. I generally want to go ahead and finish off the map. Once again, just the nature of the way that I play. Not the most efficient, but it's efficient enough. I mean, this build compared to anything else right now is just ridiculous. I posted on Reddit about how the nature of the game is right now. I am not too happy about how farming trash is the most productive thing you can do. I mean, it is the easiest thing to do, and me personally, I find this build to be just on a ridiculous level. Like on a scale of 1 to 10 of ridiculousness, this is on like a 13. I mean, you don't really care. I played this with like 500 to 600 ping, and it doesn't matter. It basically still kicks ass, and there's nothing you can do to really mess it up. At the rate of legendaries that you find too is about 6 per hour. I found these two guys here on my last 2 runs, and I found this one here like the run before that. So in the 3 runs that I did, I found a legendary each. Of course, that is not consistent. But you basically, I would say, can get 6 legendaries per hour. That's kind of the going rate for most of the guys on Reddit. So here we go again. My build right now, I have 62k HP, which is a little bit overkill for this. I've evolved to the point where I use materials more now because I don't really need my EHP IK chest as much. So generally speaking, this is a lot more overkill, and I could take a Fallen Maniac to the face and not die. But I generally don't advise it, as dying will really lower your efficiency, of course, and I think everybody knows that without saying. So I'm going to do one more run here, just to show you the speed and the consistency. I'm going to try to do this without losing Wrath now. Although I am lagging a bit, I'm getting some ping spikes. And what happens there is that I don't register a lot of the crits to return Fury sometimes. And it causes me to lose Fury. I would still advise people to run away though. And after this, I'm gonna go into town and show you kind of my button layout and how I go about doing this, because a lot of people, like I said, will have issues with running this build and keeping Wrath up, especially with a slow weapon like a Scorn. And I can tell you could run this on a base 1.0 speed, and right there you see that I wasn't really getting any Fury back, which is a shame. Yeah, so as I was saying, you don't really need attack speed in this build. A lot of people that are starting to gear for this, you want crit chance and crit damage. Max those as much as you can. And the funny thing is my Rend hammer build basically requires the same thing to be efficient. Although speed is nice and it helps you with mobility, ultimately crit hit chance and crit hit damage is what delivers with crit or Hammer of the Ancients. So that does make gearing a little easier, since it'll be a little cheaper. You don't need a true trifecta everywhere or anywhere at all, since you can keep Wrath of Berserker going basically full time. And for those of you who are using dual wield Whirlwind at the moment, you might have gear that basically would have attack speed on it already, or trifectas in general. It doesn't hurt this build, but like I said, not necessary, so don't think you can't run this build. It's just, you might not be able to Rend crit everything and kill them all at once if you do have more attack speed than you do crit damage and crit chance. Now the one thing about this build is it's not really set for elite farming, although you can do it, but everybody's already stated that it's not as efficient. So generally speaking, you want to just kill the white mobs and move on. Some people like to end their runs the first sign of losing Wrath, or the first sign of a dead end. That's Taser's choice there. So with this particular build, I mean, if you're needing essence, of course you don't want to do this on this level. You might want to lower the MP a little bit, switch out maybe a skill or two, and then put hammers in there, and you can actually do quite the same thing. So that's a second run, and what you want to do, like I said, is always check map. Okay, so with 2 runs under the belt now, and that one with the Wrath of Berserker not, you know, tapping out, I'm just going to change a few passives here to show you what I would temporarily do in town. So the way that you start the build, as you can see, is basically get, you know, Battle Rage up as soon as possible. With IK it only takes 1 hit. Once you get that going, what you're going to do is you want to hit Overpower, and then you want to get as many crits as possible, either by the way of Whirlwind, or you go ahead and just auto attack some more with Rend until you get enough for Sprint. Once you have Sprint, then what you're going to do is you're going to do the regular Whirlwind play. You know, you're just going to sprint around and go ahead and hold Whirlwind down and basically get as many crits as you can with Sprint. Sprint is going to be a very good generator once you get Overpower and Sprint going, but it doesn't really pick up until you get Wrath of the Berserker. So once you get Wrath, what you're going to want to do is spin. When I spin into a mob, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and basically keep my, you know, person steady, and I'm going to left click, and on my board is Q and W for the first 2. I'm going to Q and W, left click, and it's going to go like that. So what I did was I activated my Sprint, I gone Overpower, and I did Rend at the same time. So I'm going to let Overpower come back. I'm going to kind of do this in sequence. So I'm going to spin into a mob and then basically do that. You can actually hold Shift the whole time you're doing Whirlwind. It'll still go where you want it to, but once you let go and you hit the left click, it will activate Rend. So you don't have to actually click on a mob. So you can do this, and it will activate all 3 at once, and then you just twirl off into the next mob and you do the same thing. And a lot of times you won't have Overpower back right away. If it's Skull Cleavers, I usually save this for the middle of the pack, and I will activate all 3 at once. So what you're going to get Overpower to crit most of the guys around you along with Rend, and that would be usually enough to kill maybe a couple of Skull Cleavers, but I would do 1 circle around them just to drop a few tornadoes, and that will ensure that they get killed off screen. And basically by doing this, I've gone from level 97 to 100 in 1 day. And once again, I don't really claim or take credit for this build. It's well documented on Reddit already. Depending on your gear set, you can actually gear for this really cheaply. I've been, you know, basically blessed that the way that I've been playing, that I didn't have to make any changes at all. I just changed my skills and off I go. But it's been said that you can fully gear yourself in an IK set now for, ooh, I would say maybe less than about 10 million, because the chests have come down in price so much, and a lot of these crappy IK items like the belt, the fist, the boots, and the helm, you can get for like 20k a piece. So maybe even less than 5 million you get all that. The scorn's probably going to be your biggest factor. Some crit rings. You might even be able to do this with blue rings if you got good stats everywhere else. And 24% run speed is ideal because you drop more tornadoes that way. So you could go ahead and maybe fully build this. And I know Chazzer said that he did it with 25 million. If you shop smartly, you can probably do this with existing gear as well, way under that budget. So nowadays, I mean, if you find that you're stuck or you want to get back into the game, it's probably the easiest way to do it. So with this video, I'm just gonna leave it at this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave me a line. But generally speaking, yeah, this is all I have to say about this build. I won't use it much. I still like my hammer build, but I'm gonna have more coverage on that soon and all the gear changes that I've made so far. So thank you guys for watching. See you again. Bye bye.